Welcome to Empowering Homeschool Conversations, your authority in navigating the world of homeschooling diverse learners. Featuring Peggy Ployer from SPED Homeschool, Annie Yorty from AnnieYorty.com, Leilani Melendez from Living with Eve, Stephanie Buckwalter from eLARP Learning, and Dawn Jackson from Dawn Jackson Educational Consulting and Tutoring. With over 75 years of combined homeschooling expertise, experiences, and perspectives, this group is eager to share their wealth of wisdom to empower your homeschooling journey. So grab your favorite mug, settle in, and get ready for insightful discussions, valuable insights, and practical tips. Give your homeschool the power boost it needs to successfully educate the unique learners in your home.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Empowering Homeschool Conversations. Today, we are going to talk about smooth transitions, easing special needs kids back into homeschool routines. And I've got the Empowering Homeschool Conversations team here with me, minus Stephanie. She's got some sick people at her house, and so we are going to fill in as much as we can extra for her and share some ideas with you as you're all probably starting that homeschool journey or getting back into the homeschool rhythms, and or maybe you schooled through the summer and things are going to be getting a little bit more book oriented or lesson plan oriented versus free learning maybe that you did through the summer. So all of that causes transitions. And so we're going to talk about that and lessons we have learned through the years, maybe share some stories and some tips, tricks. So you'll want to hang around for that. So welcome, ladies. And I'm excited to be back. I'm bummed that I missed our last conversation. Hurricane Beryl hit my home and I lost power. So these wonderful ladies filled in and gave you some great advice. But I'm glad to be back. So yeah. So as we're talking about smooth transitions, have transitions always been good in your home as far as schooling? Any stories? Annie's already laughing.
I know, I'm laughing at you, Annie. We're on the same boat. No, it's never goes. I mean, sometimes.
Are your kids ready for school, Leilani? Ready to get going?
No. No. Well, I have a high schooler. He's the one that does have ADHD and anxiety, and he is having anxiety. But for what he's done in his mind is he wanted a specific date to go to know that he is going into high school on that day. And I cannot do any school or anything with him before that actual day. And we're trying so hard with the anxiety, but he's like, this is the last time I get to breathe before I start school. I'm like, I promise it's not that bad. He's a little nervous. But even though it's still homeschooling, I'm still in charge of everything. And so he's only going to the same homeschool co-op that he's been going to since he was in kindergarten. So really nothing changes, just the teachers and the classes. So but he's still in his mind, high school.
Yeah,
So,
I think you bring up something there with pressure, too. That's huge. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Annie, you were going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say I think that you bring up a point that I've been thinking about as I've thought about this topic, because we need to understand kind of the source of whatever might be the transition problem with our kids. Mm-hmm. And before we address it, we're going to bring some ideas here, but it all kind of is predicated on understanding what is causing that underlying anxiety or behavior or whatever it is. And your understanding what your son needs, he needs a date. He needs to, and each one of us has to kind of analyze that with our own children before we apply a solution. So that's the caveat for the discussion, I think.
So true. Yes. We got to take a step back instead of just saying, I'm going to just put this thing in place that I heard because this will make everything better. And then it even backfires on you more because you really didn't get why you needed to work on that. You just kind of started putting the Band-Aids on before you realized, what was underneath. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but my summers, when my kids were younger, and I'm not homeschooling them anymore, but we're always very, very different from the rest of the year. We traveled a lot, we visited relatives, and bedtimes were all over the place, and there was much less routine. And so it is a transition, certainly. When you get to this point of the year, you're like, oh my goodness, we're just a couple weeks out, Here.
Right.
So, and you do sort of have a little bit of a panic because you have to rein it all in, and transitions, I think, are just a time when you need to have some boundaries. And it's, I think for a lot of kids, it's just hard on transitions are hard because our children crave that routine, and it throws them off kilter. Maybe it causes anxiety, or maybe they don't know what to expect if, we don't keep some semblance of a routine. So it's like retraining to get back in and make a smooth entry into the new school year.
Yeah. So true. Everybody's nodding their heads. So yes, we definitely. We were kind of in that same boat, Annie. Is that I know a lot of people school through the year. I was so ready to be done in May, that But we did all the activities like the Vacation Bible School, and we went camping, and we would stay in our RV for weeks at a time, and yeah, so that routine was totally thrown off, and I think that was one of my biggest things was getting that routine established even before introducing the school. And so we had this like rhythm established before any learning, like technical or formal learning got introduced. So that we kind of knew how to operate, because you have to get into that mode again. And it is comforting to our kids, but when they've been out of it for a while, they forget that was what provided a lot of the comfort, was that routine, because they're like, oh, free for all, I can do whatever I want. I think we're all that way, though. We like those fun, exciting things, but if we were doing that all the time, it would wear us down so much. We have to have that ability to say, no, this is my time to rest, and this is my time to work, and this is when I get up, and this is when I really should go to bed. So yes.
I think just this summer, that has been a learning experience for my son, because he had that free time, and transitioning out of that, because he went to summer camp, Bible camp by himself for the first time, spending the night away from mom, miles away from me. And all of a sudden he felt like he had freedom, and transitioning back into home took about a week for us to kind of just acclimate. And but like you said, it is kind of that he needs to have that self-discipline to know when this is the time to play, this is the time to work, and be preparing himself to transition. And so we've spent a lot of time talking about it. I feel like I spent a lot of time when he was a baby, but I feel like I spend more time now when he's a teenager, just talking about all the things on being an adult, especially when it comes to impulse and self-control and anxiety and all of that. So
absolutely. Got anything to share, Dawn?
I have a ton of stuff. My head's just racing, but I love listening to you guys. I'm like, yes. I think about transitioning, and in my work, especially my home, but my kids are grown now, but especially in my work with families that I have. And I know that it's often a very slow process. We call it like scaffolding, like a very small process of chunking away. You could start with saying, gee, school's starting in 3 weeks. And if you have that high anxiety child, you could put it on a calendar or on something visual to say, let's count down the days and really celebrate it, like celebrate the newness of the year that's coming in, all the fun new things that you're going to do. But having that routine piece can start very small. Like I said, chunky. So today we're just going to get up a half an hour early, and we're going to do our morning routine, our Bible study, or make breakfast together, or take a walk, or whatever it is that you do in the morning. And then try to, add to that every couple of days or so. Like today we're going to have a reading time or Bible time. And then before you know it, hey, let's look at these new math workbooks that I got. Aren't these cute? I mean, I'm just saying. And I mean, even I have probably, sometimes I wonder, am I a master manipulator or am I really an educator? Because
I mean, you just said math books were cute. Did you
Yes.
hear that? That came out of
I
your
did.
mouth.
I think a Singapore map, that is cute math. Okay?
Oh, it is. I
It
know all
is.
the color pictures. Yes.
It's so cute.
Yes.
And also, even if you're doing something like Khan Academy, I was just talking to a family yesterday with this little guy. He pulled up his Khan Academy for me because I have access as a teacher, and all the color coding they do, right? So instead of him just answering blank questions through the tests, I said, let's create, this is a really cute thing. This guy is adorable, but I said, let's create a math journal, and you can, for me, artist, I love to copy things and do colors. He's like, no, I just need a printout of it. And I'm like, excellent. So now mom's teaching him how to print it out, glue it into his little notebook. She found a notebook like that right off the shelf. She had the notebook. He already went out. He did it while we were still talking. Mom and I were coaching, and came in and said he did it. And then on the bottom, he can write his own notes. So just introducing the curriculum might be an idea. I don't know. Just say, look how fun. Like, if you're getting some of that stuff's pretty cute, you guys. And
Yeah.
you get your art materials, your little la-la-las and all this and that, and you get to organize. But I'll segue into this and be quiet for a while. I think it's really important to organize, to get organized. And I know you guys are going to talk about this too, but to minimize the junk from last year that you don't need anymore, share it, give it away to other families, get rid of it, downsize, simplify, clean up your workspace, your school, start over, start fresh, get fresh crayons, whatever it takes to make you get excited about getting up to do. I'm the same way, and I'm not even in school, but I just organized my whole office, and I'm like, oh, everything just fits now, and it's perfect. And I come in here, I'm like, thank you, Lord. I just love this. It's so nice. But it makes, that's important, right? So even if you're like what we call maybe a mom that has some ADHD traits and really struggles with the organization, I would just say, do a little each day. Do a little each day, because everything in behavior modification says it's the starting of the change of the behavior. If you don't like working out, just go in your workout room and stand there and look at in the mirror at yourself in the underwear. You will pick up some weights after that. Seriously. Just don't visualize that. But anyway, keep going.
Well, the child should walk into his classroom and hold his pencils and crayons and smell them.
Yeah.
There you go.
You make a point that I think anyone who's got a kid with learning differences, or we've probably become masters at breaking down bigger tasks into their smaller parts. Right. Because we typically cannot introduce a whole thing in one fell swoop with our kids. And so we can apply that same concept to the beginning of the school year, as Dawn was saying, that start with just getting our body clocks back on a schedule, then, think about how we're eating or whatever, and start with the reading. I love to start with the reading. It's a very simple thing that most kids enjoy, even just like read alouds. That can be your beginning, and really at old ages too. My kids liked to listen to stories being read to them, or like books on tape, that kind of thing. But it just begins at step by step, as Dawn was saying, and also to think about how I think it's there's like this old story about how you can fill a jar with sand, small pebbles, and then rocks. And if you put the sand in first, then the small pebbles and the rocks, it doesn't fit in the jar. So then you take everything out and you put the biggest things in first, the big rocks, and then put the little pebbles and then the sand, the particles all around, and it will fit. So it's like, start with your big things, like start with your more important foundational things, and then add in the other things that are maybe less important. I don't know about you, but I do get excited about the new school year, and I have all these wonderful ideas, and it's always more than really practical. So I think, start with the main things, and then add in as the child kind of feels confident and successful, and just keep doing what seems reasonable.
I think I shared this once before, but I want to share off of what you said, Annie. A lot of times they say, I listen to a lot of podcasts like how to navigate your brain, how to get the most out of your life, whatever. And a lot of times what they say is, instead of writing on a piece of paper, I'm going to organize my office. They say to break it out. You've probably all have heard this before. So I am going to go through my files. That's 1. 2, I'm going to organize and get rid of books. That's 2. So you're really, I'm like, for me, it was, I am going to get baskets and get rid of this ugly shelf I have, buy a new shelf and get baskets and organize just those 4 things that are really important to me that I would use every day. And so that's specific. So as specific as you can be, right. It's good to make a list at first. If you're saying, I really want to organize the garage this year because we keep all of our supplies out there, you guys,
that's overwhelming though, if you think of your whole garage all at the same time.
Peggy, today I have been saying for months, I'm gonna have a garage sale. Today I'm like, no, you're not gonna do that. So I filled up my to the brim and took it all and donated it to a thrift store. And I was like, what was I thinking? Like, on the way home when I unloaded that junk, I'm like, nobody would even buy it. Although it wasn't bad stuff. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't great. It was chairs and furniture and stuff. But I'm telling you that I felt like 100 pounds got lifted off of me. Just that visual space makes a huge difference. Especially, I want to say this too. As a specialist working with kids that are visually oriented, visually stimulated or overstimulated, if their environments are cluttery, and you guys, I've seen this, I've done in-home consultations. I'm like, Mom, let's just wash the dishes in the sink. Let me wash them. I mean, it was, and I get it. People are busy, no judgment, no shame, but just make it a priority. Just make it a priority to say, if this is where we're going to work in the morning, this space is going to be clean. This space is going to be designated for this child, so they have their own space to work. So I'm really kind of picky about stuff like that.
Yeah, that raised my anxiety. My mom is kind of one of those Packrats, and my anxiety would go up every time I entered our house growing up. And still, when I go to visit her, my anxiety goes up. So I totally get it. I think, both Annie and Don, you bring out a good point. Those big things, but big things can be different for different families. Because I think a lot of times we think it's the main, reading, math, but it goes back to what are the main goals, in writing like a homeschool IEP or SEP, and what are those things that are most important for your student this year. And those are the things that you really have to focus on. And they may be totally different for each child you have in your house too. But can you focus on those things for them? Because that's when you're actually going to get stuff done. Like you said, Don, if you have a specific thing in mind instead of an overarching, well, we're just going to get better this year, or we're going to do more, and we're going to progress. What does progression look like? Where are you progressing? But laying that all out ahead of time and taking the time, because if you don't have a plan, you're going somewhere, but it may not be where you want to go.
Right.
And just, to point out that we don't know everything. We are the experts on kids, but we also have a God who knows and loves them and created them, and he knows us as well. And so we do need to rely on him and just put that out in prayer and ask God for his wisdom. I mean, there's homeschooling has driven me to God more than probably any other activity of my life.
Yeah, if you want to take a good look at your humanity and what fill in the blank you are, homeschool your kids, because then your faith will increase. Just have kids and that'll happen.
Yes.
Right? Before children, I actually thought I was somebody. Then I had 3 kids who grew up to say, "You're nothing," or whatever. "You're this or that." And I'm like, "You're right." And then I dared to homeschool these brilliant humans, right? Hello. Like, what was I thinking? They were so much smarter than me. I'm not kidding. It put me to shame. And I'm still to this day, like, do I dare share anything, because I was pretty humiliated, but I was very, very blessed. And it does increase your faith, Annie. You're so right.
Yeah.
It does. Your knees will get discolored.
So true. Yeah. So we've talked a bit about, our go-to advice, and a little bit about the environment. Is there anything else kind of in that, like, strategies that?
Well, I know just one of the things completely separate from the other conversation, but an idea that I've used is to always place a future goal, something for them to look forward to, like a vacation or just holidays, birthday parties. So they feel like, okay, it's coming up. I'll just get through this week or the next 2 weeks and 2 weeks. And they're excited. And so I don't know, that's something that I use. I always like to have the next big goal in mind that they're working.
So how did you share that? Did you put it on the calendar, or was there? You just tell them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just tell them. Yeah.
I kind of did the same thing when we would do our bedtime routine. That was my way of helping my children to synthesize our schedules. And so I'd say, tomorrow we are going to, and then I would go through the things that we were going to do tomorrow. And so they were mentally prepared that this is what tomorrow was going to look like. And then if there were bigger things further out, I'd say, and then later on this week, this day of the week, we're going to be doing this. Just, those things that maybe are harder to transition to, just so they're thinking about it, and then we talk about things that were even further out, that were even maybe a harder transition, just so we had that time to kind of like meld it into the thinking process that this is something that's going to happen. We can talk about it, but it is coming up. And so you've got that time to kind of process it, instead of, in the morning going, well, this is our schedule. And then they have a meltdown because they had no idea anything was coming.
Yeah. I always think about, that's exactly what I was going to mention is when my kids were young, and they didn't understand, like, even the days of the week. Mondays we do this, Tuesdays we do this. And having those picture routines out and picture charts and showing them things, like before we went camping with Naomi, I'm like, okay, this is a tent. We're going to live in it. We would go and see what it looked like and just prepping her that was going to happen. But it's still a surprise. And even with a kid that, I don't know, it's one of those things that just is very difficult especially with the littles. And I know my son that has anxiety, he would always have anxiety when we went to a new place.
Really?
When he was little.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that if you could, okay, who's talking? Me?
You go ahead, Dawn.
Sorry, go,
Dawn.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, and some of the learners that I have, like I'm working with a little guy right now. He's about sixth grade going into seventh, and we did this profile on him, and he's very high and organized, and so he really needs, or he gets overwhelmed and very frustrated. He really needs to know what they're going to be doing and what that's going to look like, and that whole picture in between. And if any of those parts are missing, he flips out. So for example, if you say, okay, you're just going to do your math today, like 1 through 5, what am I going to do with that math? What am I going to answer questions? Am I going to create this in my math notebook? Like, it really has to be broken down for him, or he'll lose it. He gets very overwhelmed if he's kind of left to his own demise, in a sense. So I would say, like, for little guys, always have like that wall, that whiteboard with the visual pictures. I say let them be a part of creating a calendar every year, even if you have one of those cute little already made ones from the teacher supply store or 99-cent store, and they can put the date each day. They say the date, and then they can have like the cute little picture of Disneyland or the farm or, you know, the store. We're going to the store today. We're going to buy school supplies, you know, or we're going to go to grandma's house and do a garden. Whatever that is, having them tangibly be a part of that by creating such a calendar really gives them that body-mind connection. And for me, just telling a child something, that's great if they're a strong auditory learner and they have a great memory. But if they don't, they're constantly going to be feeling anxiety because they don't know what's next. And anyway, I kind of learned that from my oldest son. And so when he was young, we had those kind of calendars, even though, you know, it may feel babyish or something, but it's saves you a lot of energy as a mom, constantly, oh, I told you we're going, okay, go look at the calendar. What does the calendar say? Remember the calendar? Now you're creating some independence in their learning, and they know, I can just look at that calendar. We have that on there. Now I'll tell you, if you have a kid, you didn't put it on the calendar, they're going to hold you to it. You didn't put that on the calendar that had a dentist appointment. I'm not going, you know.
Well, it's funny because you say that. I'm thinking about my soon-to-be high schooler, and how now he's striving for independence. So he wants to now create his own calendar. Right. And then mom's calendar is totally different. And we're trying to now figure out how to communicate that with each other. Because for the longest time, I've had a schedule. Like, this is your math block, because I had to. This is your science. And now he's like, Mom, I want a list and I want a due date. Yeah. And I'm like, do I let him?
Do you use Google, Leilani? Because you can share calendars on Google.
Right.
Well, yes, that's true. I do it with my husband, but he's not allowed to have a phone. So he doesn't have that.
Well, you can do it on the computer with them. Like each day, okay, let's create the calendar. Then you print it out. And then you have to print out. You can
printouts are good. We can do printouts. Do printouts. It's just when he gets in front of the computer.
Yeah, it's kind of a balance. You know, he can learn to create it because then, you know, he is going into high school, but he's not playing on the computer. You know, he's using it as a tool.
That is another self-control thing that we're working on with the computer. But
it's a big struggle.
That's why it's hard for me to decide how much independence do I give him. With creating his own schedule, because he just wants a deadline right now. But then he creates a schedule and then he doesn't get things done, and so we still have to monitor him. So it's
you have to, as you're discovering, know your child, and as you open up the reins of freedom or independence, do it a little at a time, because if you basically say, okay, we'll give it a try, you could go down the road a month and find nothing's,
just sitting with them, like I like the idea of sitting with them 100%. And then slowly, as you see they're acting responsible, you reward them with a little bit. I'm going to go over here and get a glass of water. I'll be back. And you're still watching, you're still, being aware, but they're feeling a little freedom. Because how do you create independence in a child? That is a great question. And it is important because if you don't, there could be behaviors that come out of that on the other side, out of anger, out of frustration. Why do my friends get to use computers and I don't? Things like that. And so there's that conversation. Oh, I want you to use this computer. I want you to have that freedom. So let's work for that. And right now I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes while you work on your calendar. And then you just kind of move back a little bit and come in and come out. and generate that interdependence. Really, that's what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even that we're talking about just preparing kids for, what's coming. And even you can prepare them to understand the steps toward independence, what's going to be first, what should they expect? Because I have a teenager myself, and she thinks independence is just doing anything you want.
Right.
And that's not the definition of
responsibility of independence.
So, anyways, so we have to help them define terms properly. But
that's a good transition activity, Annie. Kids could sit down and say, or Leilani could sit with their high schooler and say, okay, write down 5 steps what it would look like for you to have X amount of independence in this area, whatever area that is. And they will have to break it down. And then you have that discussion around it. He's old enough now. What does that look like to you to be able to have that freedom and that independence? Because with independence, there's consequences and there's responsibility.
Well, and we heard that the other day, bad choices equal bad consequences. Sorry, that was completely
imagine that.
Yes.
Well, all the things we're talking about, these things like either explaining to them what they're going to expect, or telling them, showing them on paper with visual cues, all of that does help them to become more independent. And, they may not be making the decisions about what we're doing, but they may give some input for how they prefer it, or they certainly are gaining independence in governing themselves when they can think about it and control themselves and accept a new or different thing. And even when you're having an activity, I know for my kids, it was important if I knew something would be uncertain. I don't have all the answers, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I may tell them to the best of my ability, but when there's something that could be uncertain, let them know, well, we don't know exactly how this is going to happen, but we have, if this, then that, but how will we respond if it goes differently? Talk it out a little bit so that they have an understanding that everything isn't just going to revolve around what makes them most comfortable. They have, as much as we understand their needs in those areas, we do have to prepare them for the real world.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
A lot goes into this.
I love that. I just want to share on top of that, Annie, you and I, we could just do this. But I was thinking, even with grading, one of the things we do in Solomar is our kids pick their grades for each subject. And I think it's a really cool idea because, say, for example, you have a math curriculum, a new math curriculum. You could talk about grading and what that's going to look like. It could either be letters or colors, like gold, bronze, and silver. And then if they say, oh, I want a gold in that math class. Okay, let's talk about what is a gold? What does a gold look like? Oh, you get 100% across the board, and you do some extra supplementary or extracurricular activity around that. And then, I don't want an A. I don't want a gold. Let's look at the silver, or the bronze. And so then you just go down through each one. But what we do, we even write out what each one would look like. So say midterm, your kid is not loving math anymore. You can just go back to that grade agreement that you created and say, how's that working for you with that A? I don't like to sit there and go, did you do your math? I will just say, oh, does that look like an A to you? Does that look like the A you're shooting for? And my students sometimes will say, no, I don't think I can do that A. I think a B or whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. You can change it. We don't go lower than a C. And this is what a C looks like. But see, it's a conversation. It's not like a shaming. Why didn't you get, but just having that grading conversation. What do you want? What do you as a student want to accomplish this year? And how are we going to measure that in a sense?
Right. It's the whole idea of rubrics and, giving them the idea of what's expected versus this arbitrary letter that comes or, whatever level comes from something. I don't know, but I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
But they
Has
sometimes
no
don't even
meaning.
know what to do.
Right.
And so
But
it
this way
does
they
help
get to
to
create
find
it
that.
with you, though. They get to create that
Mhm.
rubric or that plan
Right.
instead of, and obviously you're going to input and help and support in that, but it just changes the mindset of, wow, I'm in control here. I get to succeed if I choose to. And I don't know if I've shared this before, but my philosophy with motivating children, if they don't want to do it, you can't motivate them to do it. Oh yeah, they might do it half-heartedly and they may do it just because they're going to get in trouble if they don't, but to really do it to learn, to engage and enjoy and find joy in that learning, they're not going to do it. You have to find the way, the ticket in, the trick to their heart and to the desire of them wanting to learn.
She manipulates them.
I manipulate them.
Yeah.
The answer to the first question.
This is the goal. This is the gold at the end of the rainbow. I ask them questions. I just ask them questions. How does that sound to you? What do you think of that? Does that sound like you want to do that? I never say, this is what we're doing and you better do it. I said, what is that? How does that feel for you? Like, is that a plan? And they're like, yes or no. Well, no, I don't want to copy that note. I just want a printout. Okay, let's do a printout. I'm cool with a printout, and you can use that printout on your tests because open books to me are just fine. And how about that for you? Do you agree? And he's like, yep. So it's a conversation. So that's how I manipulate them.
Well, and I think what it's teaching them overall is that, life in general, we have to navigate things. It like you were talking about, Annie, it's not a free for all. We are responsible, and our kids will be responsible over time, taking things on more and more as they become independent. And it doesn't mean that they lose that need to do things and navigate. It just means that they take the responsibility instead of us. And our world does not teach that concept. It's more on the what, I get to do whatever I want. And that's not life. And so easing them into this is so much better. Yeah. Yes.
If there's a situation where you're saying you have to do math this year, you're in 6th grade, right? And they're like, I don't want to do math. I'm not doing math. I'm homeschooled. I don't have to do math, right? We've heard that conversation. Okay. And I just say, okay, how long do you want to stay in 6th grade? How many years do you want to be a 6th grader? That's your choice. You're right. You don't have to do math, but until you do it, you don't get to go to the next grade level. So are you comfortable being 20 years old in 6th grade? Are you cool with that? I mean, if the person says, yeah, I'm like, nothing I can do, but I promise you, they're not going to like that at the end of 6th grade. So guess what? We get to do math all summer long to catch up. And I just had a student that happened to last year. He would not do math in 8th grade. And now he wants to go to a high school, regular high school. So guess what he's doing all summer? He's plowing through. But you know what? Why? He was motivated. So that's the thing. You have to find the thing that motivates them, and that you can just give them suggestions. And I'm not saying don't parent your child and, have a plan and objectives, because we have to, but there's a way to deliver that. And that's what we have to think about. Like, how am I delivering this? And it's not this child run homeschool. I'm not talking about that. I'm really talking about respect for a child and what they need to learn. How do we create that for them? You guys know I'm big on that. So that's all I talk about.
So I think we touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but it was the environment, that we're creating within our homes to ease transitions. Is there anything that you would give as advice about something that has worked for you as far as within your environment that you found was extremely helpful to even just facilitate learning better? That might be helpful.
I mean, I think Dawn was talking about it earlier, just giving them all new things, new crayons, But I think having that still familiar environment too, the one designated room or one designated spot where they do their classwork, and I've seen people do like beginning of the first day of school, first day of homeschool parties, where they do a big party. Everybody gets a present. Usually the presents are crayons or colored pencils or markers or those flare pens for the high school girls. Yeah. And the journals and those kind of things.
Yeah.
I think you're going very concrete, which is great. You got to think about those things. I also think about my own attitude and my own, like, how do I come across to my children? Do I set a tone of like, this is a positive thing or this is negative? Am I sounding like I know what I'm doing? Like I have a plan. I have, is my house in order, so to speak? And I think the physical environment sets some of that tone, as somebody mentioned about even like just getting the dishes done, or something like having your child fix their bed. Does in the whole of things, doesn't matter if their bed's not made, not necessarily, but it sets a tone when you put something in order. And so I'm checking my own attitude. Am I conveying like this is positive and I'm looking forward to it? And also that I have set some behavioral guidelines, things like that, where I'm going to stick to those things. I have the resolve to stick to those things. Yes, I'm going to, like Dawn's saying, we can talk to our children about their desires and help them understand how to move in independence toward achieving those. But there is a boss in the house. There's a leader, and that would be me when I'm home, my husband, of course. But they need to respect that. And so I'm going to check myself and my attitude and how, and know, like in my mind, how will I respond if there's a problem? I'm not going to haywire or whatever. I'm going to try to respond in a calm, godly way to understand that I have this option to homeschool that gives me this great opportunity to address hard issues, and I'm going to make that the most important thing. But that's a big thing, is getting my head straight as a teacher here.
I love that. And also taking care of yourself. We've talked about that before on a different podcast, where moms really need nurturing. And if it's the mom, it could be the grandma, it could be the dad. But whoever is that primary teacher, I think you need to take care of yourself. If that means on Saturday, you go get your nails done and a foot massage while dad takes them to the library, then you do that, because it is important to Leilani's like, yes.
Well, no, I'm just thinking like no mom guilt, because I know when I do those things, it's like mom guilt.
I didn't.
That's my struggle.
I look back.
Yeah, I have mom guilt.
I should have understood that more about. Yeah, I'm kind of trying to learn that now.
No, you guys, it's so essential. It's so essential. I want to give my little teeny tiny tip, Peggy.
Yes, please do.
I've shared in workshops and all these other different things to parents, and they love it. So if you have multiple children, like I had 3, and so I had a baby, and then the first, middle, last. And I'm like, what are we going to do with this baby when I'm homeschooling? So by the time you have the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th, you have a million toys, right? So I went over to Walmart and got my color-coded containers with the little pop-off lids, and every day represented one day. So we put them out in the garage. We had a big Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We didn't homeschool on Friday. That was our family fun day and our art day, our meet up with friends and all that. But on those 4 days, every morning, that little guy, I would take him out there. He was like almost 2, and say, it's Monday, get the Monday container. I was kind of a hyper mom. I know you guys can't imagine. It's weird. I have like really serious, very calm children, because I took it all out of them. I already got it. So we would get that container, bring it in, have a little blanket sitting there in the little schoolroom. We had a schoolroom, and there he would be. But guess what? Take that middle child while you're working with the big child, and she's sitting there because she thinks it's Disneyland. He's got all these new toys. they weren't new toys. They were just Monday toys. But those toys were all over the place, and I just consolidated them in these containers and brought them out each week, and you would have thought it was Christmas morning. Seriously. And if you're really a fun mom, you'll even go to the 99-cent store and throw a couple of new things and maybe even put their little snack in there. They have a little Ziploc with crackers or something. And it just changes it up for everyone, you know. So you can get some one-on-one time maybe with a kid or two, and then, you know, you have your little guys really entertained.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
We would do that on travels too. Yes.
Do that when you're traveling?
We would do that when we were traveling. So the kids would have little things that because we took long car rides, and when they were tiny, and, you know, to sit in that seat for hours on end, where my husband loved the driving, but the kids were like, got
the Ziplocs.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Throwing food back at them. So, yes.
I know. On the airplane, that's how we were. Okay, we have the cards, we have puzzles, we have snacks.
Yeah. I love everything that you guys talked about. Yeah. So Annie, share what you were doing.
You can also set up systems where your children can be more independent with their lessons. So either with boxes where for a particular subject they've got the directions, and if they're reading, obviously, but the directions, whatever materials they're going to need in that box or folder, so that they can go to that. And if you can teach them to use a calendar and, you know, daily calendar, mark it off as they complete it, that kind of thing. So that does require preparation by you, but it is a calming thing for our children when we have everything they need ready. I'm like, there were days, you know, where I just was like, we're winging it, and I get to it and I'm like, oh, we need this or that or what, and don't have it, you know, and that just throws everything off. So you know, and
check your glue sticks. Check your glue sticks. Check.
So have your things together for them, and for kids, I think kids with strong wills in particular, those visuals or those hands-on things that are already prepared sort of deflect their maybe argumentative nature. So if it's like they're not going to argue with the list of directions, whereas if you're sitting there saying do this, do that, they may be more inclined to argue with you, but they're feeling independent and they may just work through it and not question as much. So those, I know a thing or two about the strong-willed children.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say that too, is preparing the rooms, you know, in your house for learning. A lot of times we would have special cubbies for each of the kids, and then, you know, prepping all their stuff for the week. And as I learned to do independence with my kids, it was like, okay, well, here's all the stuff you need to get done. Here's the lessons. You can do them in whatever order you want, just as long as they get done. And so sometimes they would like pick the easy stuff all first, and then they learned that all they had was the hard stuff. You know, that usually only took a couple weeks for them to go, oh, I don't want to do it that way. Lots of life lessons learned. Maybe do the hard stuff first and then have the easy stuff at the end. But, you know, it depends on their nature too. They're going to gravitate one way or the other, but lots of visuals, lots of things like that. But yeah, the more you prep and have everything ready, it's like they're like, oh yeah, that's what we do. We just, the school's there, and they don't have enough time to think of an excuse because you're already ready. So yeah. But all right, well, we are down to our last 10 minutes, and so we probably should wrap up with some things that, you know, even if it hasn't been on the topic, things in the top of your head, like, this is what I really want to say, say it. Or if you didn't have time to say it before, yeah.
Well, I always have something to say, but I'll wait. Let the other ladies go first. But leave me some time.
Well, I think, I can just sort of hear, because this might have been me on occasion, someone going, yeah, you don't know my situation or my child, or, maybe rolling your eyes a little bit. So I respect that, because I've been there, done that. And like we said at the beginning, there are some unique solutions are unique to our children sometimes. Right. And we have to discover what their needs are. If it's a need for security, that's causing a behavior or a meltdown or just that arguing or whatever, you have to address that need and the root of it. If it's, just needing a physical outlet, let your child do something to get their yayas out,
right.
If you're in a rut of problems with transitions, whatever they are, if you get stuck in a groove that's negative, just switch it up. Just go off to something wacky or humorous or whatever, and reset that activity. Because I'm like a little bit like a dog with a bone sometimes. I'm like, we can do this, but that's not smart all the time. Perseverance is good, but there's a balance to it. So, step back, think about it, just try something different that resets the whole environment, attitude, atmosphere, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, that's great. I'd have to say with a lot of times we push transitions because of anxiety. We get so anxious. We feel like our kids are behind, that we're not doing enough, that, all of these fears just creep in, and we put so much pressure onto our kids and onto ourselves that we really don't need, because it's not helping anything. It actually is making it worse. So just, to rest where you're at. If you can only do one subject a day, do one subject a day. And then, over time, you will find that, we've got a little more time. Now we can add something else in. I mean, even if your state requires you teach 5 subjects, it doesn't mean you have to teach them all in one day.
That's right. That's right.
So it's just really important to remember that peace in your home, that the relationship you have with your child should not be compromised, because that's when learning stops. And so just take one day at a time and prayerfully consider what you can put in that day. And you may even have to take steps back, not even because you pushed it too hard, but because maybe your child's having a bad day. And then it's no learning's happening anyway. Sometimes it's just best to sit on the couch and read a book or listen to an audiobook if you can't even read it. There's still learning happening. So I guess that would be my big takeaway or addition.
Well, do you want me to go, Leilani? Okay.
I don't really have much, except that everything Peggy was saying just tremendously relates to my son and our situation. And we just keep chugging through and trying to find ways to make it more positive. And Yeah, I think positivity, just that there's hope. There's a path. Because a lot of times when kids get that anxiety, it's like everything closes in on them, and it's like there's no way out. This is, like a sinking hole that I'm just digging myself deeper and deeper into. But it's kind of like quicksand. I get it's like if you just sit still, you're not going to sink. my son describes it as a wall with olive oil on it. That's how he describes it.
Yeah, you can't climb that either.
Yeah.
You can smash it though. So anyway,
I like that. I'm gonna start.
Get that hammer out. Yeah.
The hammer of prayer. I just wanted to share a couple of this personal, we're coming from our personal experiences and stuff. And honestly, I mean this with all my heart, but you cannot do this by yourself. You cannot do homeschooling by yourself. And if you try, you will fail. You will struggle. You will, even if you're a perfectionist, like I tried to be and tried to do, I failed on many levels because of that, because I thought, I'm a teacher, I can do this. Well, that wasn't true. It's a very different mindset. You need a community. And I highly recommend, I don't know why I'm recommending this, that you sign up with a private school even. A private school can offer you so many services that you don't even realize you need, like with assessments or actual record keeping, creating lesson plans, personalized lesson plans, helping you pick curriculum that's really geared for your child, or taking the curriculum that you have and modifying it and make it work for your child based on the way that they learn. So I'm a big proponent of a homeschool program or a private homeschool program. Yeah, you have
co-op, like a homeschool co-op.
Well,
a co-op or even a mentor or a consultant that works with you. There's so many different options. I think we forget because we think, I need to join my local community. And a lot of times that really doesn't work for our kids.
Right.
And then we think, there's nothing for me.
There's nothing.
There's so many different options.
Right.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
I know, like with what we do, the personalized learning, even though it's virtual and it's online, it's amazing to me. I walk away stunned every time. The growth in the child, the change in the parent who's learning to see their child in a different way. And we come in with experience and expertise, years and years of expertise that no YouTube channel is going to give you, unless you can sit there and veg out for hours and hours, which is awesome. You should on this one.
We have 1,500 videos on our YouTube channel, but I don't think, I don't recommend watching them all.
They're amazing. If you did, you'd have a master's degree, And so, but I'm just saying that is an option. I say support whatever that looks like for you. Do not be the Lone Ranger. Especially if you have kiddos that are challenged in their learning in some way or in their thriving in life, it's just too much. It's just too much. And
it's a good point to mention at this moment, the resources and the community that can be found at our new platform. Right.
Yes, at homeschool.com. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to be scheduling our first our group coaching sessions in August and webinars. And so there's different ways to get connected. Create your own groups. There's lots of different ways to get different support and connections for sure.
Yeah,
I'd be remiss in not saying this as well. I do think we need to remember we are not ever alone, truly alone. That we do need to say, God, help me. Can't do this on my own. And I have thrown this prayer up so many times. God, I need some hope. I need some encouragement. Please show me. I'm open to whatever you're going to bring me, and I'm going to keep my eyes open and look for that encouragement you have for me. And he's so faithful. He'll bring it to you if you open your heart to that and just look for it.
And if you're listening today, it's probably happening right now.
Yes. Absolutely.
He is good. God is good. He's great.
God is good. Yes. Definitely. Each of our lives are a testimony to that. And we just pray that yours will be too. This is a journey. You don't start out as a confident, able homeschool mom. You just get better at trusting in the Lord and taking one step at a time. And we're here to join you on that journey. And I'm so thankful that you have found us and our broadcast, Empowering Homeschool Conversations. Thank you, ladies, for all that you shared today. This was amazing. Transitioning is hard, and whether it's hard for mom, family, children all together, we can do this. And yes, God is faithful to see us through all of it. And I think 3 of us here have graduated all of our kids, and we've survived. So we made the transitions enough, and now we're transitioning into another space. But happy to be encouraging, and we know, God, that Leilani needs. God's going to help you through this school year again.
Almost done. No,
Yes.
not almost done. Feels like I'm 14 in high school. I'm entering high school, but I still have a second grader. So,
Yep.
We've got all of it. Now that I think about it, huh?
You're in the thick of it.
I'm in the thick of it. I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, an upper elementary, and a lower elementary.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
You go, girl.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we're here for you as well. So, yes. Well, thank you, ladies. And thank you all for joining us. Right now, at this point of the recording, we do not have the show scheduled yet that'll come after this, but just check our calendar. You can go to empoweredhomeschool.com and check out our upcoming schedule, submit questions for our special guests, and see what we have going on. And go to spedhomeschool.com as well. Check out our events page, groups, and get connected. So, and check out all the resources that these ladies have too, as well. They have a plethora of good stuff for you to keep you empowered as well as equipped and connected. So thank you all, and thank you for joining us. And we'll see you again here next time on Empowering Homeschool Conversations. Bye, everybody, and God bless.
See ya.
This has been Empowering Homeschool Conversations, provided by SPED Homeschool, a nonprofit that empowers families to home educate diverse learners. To learn more, visit spedhomeschool.com